meeting of the East Dubuque Board of Education in order. It is May 17th, 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Holden. Dahlberg.
Here.
Foot.
Here.
Schauer. Here. Sent.
Here.
Nelson. Here. Kuzma.
Here.
Please rise for the pledge of the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to the consent agenda. Were there any discussion items for that? If not, I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as stated for the meeting of the Board of Education of May 17th, 2023. Second.
It's been moved by Dave, seconded by Donna to approve the consent agenda as stated on the agenda. Roll call, please.
Dahlberg.
Aye.
Foot.
Aye.
Schauer. Aye. Sent.
Aye.
Nelson. Aye. Kuzma.
Aye.
Holden. Here. Aye.
All right, moving on to recognition of visitors and correspondence. We have student council representatives first up.
I'm going to try and make this a little bit quicker, but I'm calling time.
Thank you. Thank you.
What happened to your giddy up?
No.
So we celebrate.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Advantages. Yes, I do. Thank you.
All right, and then just let me know if anyone else will have one. As of right now, I'm at 2 left. All right, so before I talk about anything pertaining to the sheets in front of you, I just wanted to go over just a couple things that has happened since the last time I was here. Thankfully, Joey Delaney was able to talk to you guys. Hopefully, he did a pretty good job. Obviously, I'm not going to be here next year, so hopefully this continues. So we finishing off the year, especially the student council, we just wanted to give a thank you to everyone. I know my class hasn't been raising a lot of money because of COVID. Student council helped with a lot of that and bought us several things. I know Mr. Sirianni and anyone else has been really helping us out, and this is me speaking on behalf of the class 23. So like we really appreciate every single thing that's been happening with that, and like the billboard out there and any other like remaining things that would just make the end of the year better. So thanking student council, but also student council thanking everything else too. So that's great. And then teacher appreciation week was last week, so we kind of made sure that every single teacher and we really tried making sure that all the other workers in the building got an appreciation card from student council, so that's pretty nice. But other than that, so tonight I wanted to talk about so recently I've been talking with Mr. Sirianni. Mr. Sirianni had therefore been talking with you about student dress code. And in front of you, on the side that has the highlighted version, I have a couple points that we had kind of talked over and eventually agreed on. On the back side is the previous dress code. The one that you're looking in front of you, just before I start talking about it, isn't set in stone. It's not specific. It's just an idea of what it is. Eventually, you guys would work best on it. But so just looking at it, the biggest thing with it is obviously student dress and grooming must not disrupt the educational process, interfere with the maintenance of positive teaching learning climate, and compromise reasonable standards of health and safety. That's just something that we can all agree on. Just something that I kept in mind when I was looking at these provisions, just so you guys make sure. So if you could keep comparing back and forth, but I'll just try and go through a couple of bigger ones. Bike shorts and running shorts, we just decided that that would be something that would be more permitted. A lot of these just come with generational changes that are a little bit bigger and things that are just normal at this point. We also have on item number 2, to fit their body type, which I think is really important when we're deciding whether someone is breaking the dress code or not, is whether this item is fitting the body type. So I think it's that's really important, and we don't want to factor out one kid compared to a different kid, and I think it's just important. Another thing, number 5, students are not to wear casual clothing such as swimsuits and pajamas. Pretty reasonable. That was there before. But students may wear tank tops and spaghetti straps, and there's a couple other ones that obviously you guys will work on in the future and decide. But like for the most part, the idea would be like crop tops would be allowed. Generally, just because that was something that has really changed over the years. I know a lot of you guys have kids that wear those outside of school, but not inside of school. I just think that they're a lot more casual, and obviously we can work on that as we start implementing it into the code, but just in overall, that is kind of the idea of it. And again, it's actually just pretty similar to the old one, so just a couple things have changed, but some of those things are important to the students here. Otherwise, things all stay the same according to the state and federal regulations of you can't wear drug paraphernalia, stuff like that, and that the principal and superintendent, you guys have the final say, and that is completely valid in a lot of these cases. So, and then obviously what would happen if you were to not do so. But other than that, if anyone has any questions or has any questions in general for the end of the year.
Just one question up on 2.
Yep.
When we go to fit their body type, based upon body types of whose standards?
So yeah, I was also thinking about this, and if you were to ask me, it's really relative kind of thing when you're deciding whether this person is not fitting the body type or this person is not. But like, it's really hard to identify that too. It's hard to write it in if you were to say it has to be this many inches compared to this, when in reality it's completely different from person A to person B, woman to man. You know how it is. But with that, when I do say body type, I do agree that there should be some kind of objectifying standard in it so that everyone is getting treated the same. And and for me, I would love to keep working on it, make sure that something like that happens. But for me right now, I have really not a good idea of what I would want that to look like, but I would pertain to really work on that and figure that out at least.
Well, you would, the reason why I look at it is you would want the students to have something that they could adhere to and something that the administration could enforce that would not make them the bad guy every time they do something.
Exactly, and I understand that, one teacher may decide that this is right and the other teacher would decide this is wrong, which could also leave it up in the air to decide. So I 100% agree that that is one thing that we could definitely work on.
And the flip side of that coin is you can't tell somebody they can't wear something because what's appropriate for one body type might not be for another, and now you get into a discrimination problem.
Yes, and I think a lot of it was the changes that body types have, developed over the years. I think people that may have a bigger, look to them, they would wear the same exact thing, and socially it would be lesser looked upon. But I think if we were to move to that, like if a bigger person was wearing a crop top compared to someone that was smaller, that they would equally have the same amount of dress code, even though one may be looked upon differently than the other. In both cases, honestly, they would be different. But yeah, I definitely think that having that comparison would be the best. Like that we're, instead of putting one person on a pedestal and one person not, that would kind of balance it out and make it where everyone can wear the same thing,
So, first of all, thank you for working on this because our dress code is pretty antiquated. I mean, there were things in there that, people haven't been wearing since I was in school.
Overalls.
A long time ago. And when I was kind of looking at it, my daughter looked at it and said, "How? I can't find a pair of jeans to buy that don't have holes in them." So there's definitely some things that need to be looked at. Usually, our policy committee, we take what comes from the state of Illinois, what's called press. They come out, they've reviewed all the policies, and we go through them, talk about how they pertain to East Dubuque, and usually we, adopt them in. This would be one that would come to the policy committee as we need to probably look at this and polish this and make sure that we, as a school district, you as students, you as a board are comfortable with before it would become policy for the school district. So a little bit different work for that committee, but, obviously we have a good start there, so thank you.
I agree, and I don't exactly know what goes on moving forward, and I'm completely willing to help out and figure out whatever that is. So, anyone has any questions about anything?
No, I just want to echo his appreciation for you going through this, because it needed to be done. It was nice to have the feedback from the students versus us, just saying this is the way it is or whatever. So thank you for going through that. In policing of it, it's not something that they enjoy or anything, but, if students can police themselves even through this process, that would be appreciated.
Something that they can look at and just know before it happens, I agree. But other than that, I also wanted to say welcome to the people who are now new on the board. It's kind of nice to meet you, but it's probably one of the last times that you'll see me compared to last year. But other than that, that should be about it. Student council is kind of wrapped up on this year. We have our new student council who we will eventually meet in the next month. So thank you. Thank you for a good school year, and it was nice meeting you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate all the effort that you put into making the student council more interactive. Thank you. Okay, moving on, any other recognition of visitors? Anybody that would like to address the board? Okay, moving on to the e-learning public hearing.
We need to open up the hearing.
All right, so is it same as normal? Just, all right, I would like to open an e-learning public hearing, May 17th, 6:13 p.m. Do we need roll call as well?
Yeah.
Roll call.
Kuzma.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Sent.
Here.
Shower.
Here.
Foot.
Here.
Dauber.
Here.
Colton.
Here.
Public comment.
Is there any public comment for the e-learning information?
So I'll give a little bit of background. Prior to COVID, there was a lot of talk in the education industry about virtual learning and e-learning and how that was going to improve education. And obviously it was sprung upon us, and we had to adapt really quickly to kids not being in school but still being educated. So, each district kind of did it their own way. Each state obviously had different politics involved, forcing things or allowing things. And since returning to school, I think we know and we appreciate kids being in the classroom with their teachers. E-learning or virtual learning did work in a regard that students were still able to get information and still interact with teachers in a fashion, but we found out that students didn't like that format nearly as much. Some of them did, and some students thrive in that. But a lot of our students said it was really hard. It was hard to stay focused. It was hard to, understand or ask questions the way that you can in the classroom. So we felt as an administration that kids being in school was the best format for us and what we wanted. the state of Illinois allowed us to have an e-learning plan during that time. And they've also allowed us to continue to have an e-learning plan in place for emergency type situations or days where students are not able to physically be in the building. So the last year or so, we didn't take advantage of that too often because our philosophy as an administration truly is that we want kids in school and in front of their teachers as often as they possibly can be. But we also understand that when you live in the Midwest, sometimes the weather doesn't cooperate to its fullest capacity. And there are times where we know ahead of time that students are going to be out of school for an extended period. So having an e-learning plan allows us to make plans for students to still be engaged in instruction if we know that there's going to be an extended period of time out of school. It's not really just about, well, we don't want to go to school in June and put all of our emergency days in place. It's really not about that. It's more of a situation if we know that kids are going to be out 2 or 3 days and that, you know, that then turns into a 5-day weekend. That's not really the best for students either. So our e-learning plan is really a compromise for those times when we're going to be out for an extended period. So if we're going to have a snow day on a Tuesday and it looks like Wednesday is going to be good, we're probably still just going to have a snow day. Having this plan in place does allow us, if we're going to have 4 days in a row that are going to be 35 degrees below zero and kids aren't going to be in school at all, this allows us to say, hey, teachers, get some things ready for kids, make sure that you have your technology at home. We can send Chromebooks and things home with kids since we're one-to-one, and students are still able to be in instruction. The caveat to it is anyone that is 4 years old to probably 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, you know, so we're talking about preschool through 2nd or 3rd grade, this is still difficult. And so e-learning for those students really looks more like paper pencil things that the teachers have put together ahead of time, again, when we have some forewarning that this might happen. So having this in place really doesn't assure that we'll never take a snow day again. You know, that's what that's the catchphrase out there is, oh, you never have to have a snow day. No, we'll still probably have some snow days. We just won't have snow weeks or snow stretches. So anything that you gentlemen would like to add to that? You're getting paid to say that, aren't you?
Yeah. Mostly because I didn't have anything weedy.
Mark that on the calendar.
That is why that's in place. And to have this in place, we need to have a hearing so that people can voice their frustrations, thoughts, questions. What does it look like? So kind of the logistics of it are that the teachers will be online and posting assignments in the morning. They'll be available for questions. Some of the classes lend themselves to like a Zoom or a Google Meet format, so the kids and the teachers are engaged. You know, counselors, special education teachers that are available for students during those days if there should be other needs. And the other big piece is that we do have technical support, so if a student is having trouble with internet or things like that, that we try and help as much as we can. So those things are all covered in the e-learning plan for the school district.
Excellent. So after hearing that, any public comment? Do we need to have close out the hearing then? Entertain a motion to close out the public hearing. Been moved by Dan, second by Don to close out the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, so we are closed out of the public hearing. Moving on to staff reports, Mr. Hire.
Perfect. Mine's pretty light tonight, although I'm gonna, Stearman wanted me to share, she gave me a couple copies of the elementary, elementary, what is that, yearbook. and the junior high yearbook, so she's
Just
going
wanted me to share with you guys, take a little peek tonight. Kind of see some of that in there. Mine's pretty light tonight. Let me see here. Oh, last Wednesday we went gray in May. So we had a couple students a number of years ago who had went through some really horrible brain tumor situations, absolutely terrible. And so we always kind of want to take a moment in May and just celebrate them and other people going through such difficult times with that. So kiddos and staff all got on board with that, so I think everybody did a great job. Appreciate Ms. Martinez, our new social worker, for doing a great job with that. And then our PTO, last Saturday, we held a touch truck event, which if you ever have little kids, it's like the perfect thing. They go check out all the big semis and things like that. And so, much to Grover's dismay, we brought in a lot of massive, a couple semis there and excavating equipment and all kinds of stuff. It was really, really well done. I think we need to be more cautious in the future with where we place some of the things and just making sure we don't do any damage to the cement or anything like that. But in terms of turnout and the event, it was awesome. Great turnout, we had a ton of people, it was a lot of fun. We went by incredibly fast, started talking about, what would we do if we did in the future to tweak it or whatnot. So anyway, it was a great time. I appreciate PTO, especially Mrs. Schoenhoff and Mrs. Edge for doing a great job with that. And then we had our annual bunny hop. Our 3rd and 4th graders raced around the track a couple times, jumping over some big old mats. And anyway, had a great time. Kids did great. Massive turnout of parents like usual and grandparents. So just appreciate everybody involved in that and doing a great job with that. And Mr. Ayers for leading it. So that's about it for us.
Any questions for Mr. Hart?
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, moving on to Mr. Sirianni.
So just a few things here as we wrap up the school year activities. Pretty busy stretch here. High school girls track was conference champions this year. They did have their sectional meet last week. None of the East Dubuque girls advanced to the state meet, but as a team they had, I believe it was 4 individuals in different events that qualified. So they are down in Charleston tomorrow and Saturday competing, or I guess it's Friday, Saturday, sorry, not tomorrow. Girls soccer finished up, had a close regional game, but their season ended in the regionals to Rockford Christian. High school boys had their conference meet. They finished 2nd in the conference meet, and their sectional meet is tonight, and so they are down at Belvedere. Junior high track wrapped up a successful season. Several new records were set during their meets. Softball, they are actually down at Stockton playing against Fulton as we speak. In their regionals, and the boys baseball did win the conference championship, and we're hosting regionals, so out back is pretty busy tonight. The boys are currently playing against Warren Stockton, so tomorrow night is Dakota against River Ridge Scales Mountain, and then the winners play on Saturday afternoon. So, and then the final item would have been the archery teams that traveled down to Louisville back on last weekend for the national tournament, and I understand we had a couple of kids who qualified for the Worlds. However, Worlds are not in the United States this go around, so I don't think we're going to have any attending the Worlds this year, but we'll see. End of the year coming up very quickly for school. High school exams are next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Junior high has their end of the year picnic day up in Dickeyville on Wednesday. And then a reminder that commencement is Friday night, June 2nd, for board members, 7:00 p.m. We will be at the football field unless Mother Nature tells us differently, and then it will be here in the gym. But either way, it'll be Friday night at 7:00 p.m. Summer-wise, got some positions filled, have a couple left to go. One of the individuals sitting here in the audience tonight is going to be on the list to be hired tonight, and we are glad to be able to say that we are going to have a living, breathing biology teacher for next fall. So welcome to Joseph Starr, and thank you for coming tonight. And hopefully we get a couple more filled here yet before we get into June. So that was basically what I have. Any questions?
I have a question, dear, and it's more about scuttlebutt that I've heard, and I don't know if it's rumor or what it is, but it has to do with the co-op for the football at Southwestern. Is there any truth to their backing out of a co-op or?
No.
Out of our football coach?
Yeah, I just heard some rumors about it, and I just wanted to get it straight from the horse's mouth, because I was like, I'm not aware of any of that going on, so.
No, I sure hope not, 'cause I took a 6-hour field trip with the AD from Southwestern to fight for our co-op to be in
Right.
a conference
That's what
that
I
makes
said.
sense for
That's
us.
what I said.
So,
I've heard similar rumors over the last week, but no, there is no truth to that. Everybody is still a full go-ahead with the co-op, as long as we can keep this going.
Good, thank you, appreciate that.
Just in regards to commencement, we all are invited to that, so we will sit up in front and everything. So just.
I will send an email out just to get confirmation of who is going to be there, so we have. I think Nick can be
Yeah, I'll be
there. But we'll have chairs for you up on right next to the stage, so we'll have everybody taken care of.
And just to let you know, the softball girls are winning 11-9 in the bottom of the 7th right now against Bolton, so, two people on. Not for them to pay attention. All right, thank you, Mr. Sirianni. Mr. Potts.
all right, first of all, from the maintenance side, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I'll sit closer, Dave. From the maintenance side, Grover had a full staff running strong this year, and he's now down a man, so Grover's pulling double duty again, so appreciate Grover and all he does, but especially when he's picking up the weight of another guy. So phase 2, if you haven't looked out back, please do. It's starting to look like a building, so that's great. Grover, anything you want to add on that? You're spending a lot of time on phase 2, so.
It's just amazing how fast the walls are going up, and they started here pretty early this morning. So,
Yeah.
no, it's going up fast. Just a lot of things coming together all at once, and we get real busy here. As soon as school gets out, they start doing some updating and remodeling of the shop class and the welding booths and stuff like that in our main electrical service in the back. So there'll be a lot of stuff happening in a short amount of time going on. So looking forward to it.
So we have construction going on there, we have destruction going on here, and then June 2nd, or no, June 5th, then they'll start the remodel of the CTE shop area, so. Transportation, Jeff addresses stop arm violations. I know I've talked to the board about that, and we've put things out on social media about that. I won't read the introduction of a bus driver that he put in his report, but if you haven't read that, please do. It's nice and really touches on what those people do and what they go through each day. On the safety and security side, from Mr. Tyler, he is getting his class ready for a mock trial. They took a case that they were studying and split the class up into groups, and they will either defend or try and prosecute this case. So I'm not sure who the judge is. Is that you?
Not me.
Not you. Okay, so maybe you're the bailiff. I'm not sure. But kind of an interesting way for them to learn more and go a little bit deeper into one of the things that they're studying in class. Mr. Tyler and I also met with the chief of police about our SRO. We talked about the evaluation of the SRO from the school district side, things that we really liked and things that we felt were going well. Some things that we may want to change or tweak a little bit. I will sit down with Jeremiah Mass, the SRO, and go through our notes, and then he'll have his formal evaluation with Chief Kovacek for that. So it's been great. It's been great having him visible. It's been great having him on site. Just that level of security, that safety and security. I go back to 5 years ago when we had that first referendum meeting, and people said, we want our schools to be top-notch academically, and number 2, we want our kids safe in school. So we continue to try and make strides in that area, and this was the next step, and I think it was a good step. So, so that was good. For my office, for our district office, the first thing I mentioned there is budget. Next month we will have our budget hearing. I do have just a quick preview for board members, so you can take this and take it home and grab a magnifying glass so that you can see it. The way that it prints is pretty small, but I want you to just kind of have a sense of what the budget looks like, because remember, when we do our budget at the beginning of the year, it's our, I hate to say this word, but it's our best guess. It's our best estimate of how the school year is going to go. So on the revenue side, I guess good news. You know, we estimated that we would bring in about $9.8 million, and we are thinking at this point, you know, we still have a little bit of time left, but we're thinking at this point we're going to be closer to $10 million. So about $130,000 more revenue than we had anticipated. And as a board member, you might say, well, why is that, TJ? Well, let me tell you. The CPP tax, the corporate personal property tax, the last couple of years has come in higher than we anticipated. Last year, it was significantly higher than the previous years. So that's a good thing. This year, we bumped that up just based on last year, and it was even more again this year than what we had anticipated. We've talked about 1 cent sales tax and what that has done over the last couple of years. When we created the bonds, when we bonded for the money to do phase 1 and phase 2, we based those bonds off of about $32,000 in revenue for each month, and we've had a couple months where that was double. So I think our last check that we received was $47,000 for 1 cent sales
Or 1
tax.
cent sales tax.
We've had a couple
Yeah,
that were
that
60
did
some
go
dollars.
down, it went
It
down.
went down this month, but it's still $15,000 more than what we had anticipated when we bonded. So, you know, I know that our buildings and grounds committee meetings, Dan and Glenn, I think Patrick was on those, we talked a lot about, okay, are we putting ourselves in a tough position when we bond for this money if we go beyond the 80%? Well, we only bonded to 80% to make sure that we had a cushion. Beyond that cushion, we now have, you know, we're seeing 10, 12, 15, even up to $30,000 more per month. So that creates even more cushion. So we can feel really good about that. We don't have plans for bonding for phase 3 yet, but we'll talk about that in the future. So, and then there's some other little thing, you know, E-rate rebates and some interest that came back higher, things like that, that helped with the revenue side. On the expenditure side, again, we spent less than anticipated, but that's a little bit of a false narrative because really the less spending came from the project that's going on out back. We didn't know the timeline of how we would be spending the money that we bonded, so we kind of figured we better put it in this year's budget just in case, you know, they get ahead of schedule or what have you. So we've spent about almost $1 million less than we anticipated, but that is going to be spent on the project that's happening out back, which will be done by December. So if you look at the other funds, like the Ed Fund, we were within $8,000. That's pretty amazing in a $6 million budget. So really kudos to Lisa and her accounting there for that. And then you can look at the other funds. They're all, you know, fairly reasonable, other than obviously the capital projects, which is the one that is significantly off because of just the schedule that we're paying for phase 2 on. So that we'll go through in more detail next month when we have our hearing, but like I said, I wanted you to have a preview so that, you know, you've now got a month to figure out what questions you have about the budget. And hopefully I just answered them all, so there's professional development, we have some teachers from both buildings that are going to go to the State Line Summer Institute held by the ROE. It's a great opportunity for them to spend a few days in their own professional development and expanding upon what they know and what they do in the classroom, so that's great. School psychologist, probably something that wouldn't usually go in my report, but we are in a position of having a really hard time of finding people to hire. And especially when you get to positions like the school psychologist where it's very specialized and there's, 3 years of training that they need to go through. So Julie Coder, who is our school psychologist through Northwest right now, is retiring this year. And Julie is amazing at what she does, and she will be missed terribly. We weren't really sure, and it's our problem because she works in our district, but she's not our employee. So you kind of think, oh, not really your problem. But a lot of the school districts that are part of our co-op, they have to have what's called a teletherapist. So when their students have to be tested or interviewed or talked to by a school psychologist, they're meeting with someone in California on Zoom or what have you. And it works, but again, I'll go back to it's better to have that live person in front of you and working directly with them. It's a lot easier when you're testing a kid and they're struggling to be there and be able to interact with them than it is on a computer trying to gauge their body language and all of that stuff. So we had 2 teachers that applied for a program to become school psychologists, and it's a partnership through Northwest, and one of our teachers, Tabitha Schemmel, was selected for that, which is great. So the way the program is set up, she would continue to teach and take classes at the same time to become a school psychologist. But because we have this shortage, we talked with Northwest and said, hey, we want her to start filling the role now. It's kind of going to be an on-the-job internship, jump right in. She's not going to be ready, we know that, but we have put in place, she has a couple classes this summer. We put in place a mentor for her, a couple people for her to shadow, and then obviously people for her to, you know, network with and connect with and ask a lot of questions. So again, this is kind of one of those out of the box things, probably not, you know, the ideal way to do it, but this is the way for us to solve this problem. So that's why that note is on there. And then the last piece was just, you know, after a few goofy years, this year really kind of felt like we were somewhat back to normal. There's always going to be those, you know, this change because of COVID comments and things, but really we had kids in school all year and it was great. So that's it.
Anything for Mr. Potts?
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you. All right, moving on to old business. There's nothing on the agenda. Anything anybody wanted to discuss? Moving on to new business. 7.1 is informational, smart computer FOIA request. So for those new board members, FOIA, you guys might have done some training already on the Freedom of Information Act. This smart computer is one that we get rather frequently. So.
Yeah, and I think what was this one asking for, Tracy? What were they wanting?
This one was the normal one, where last month was one of all of our staff and contacts. So that was a different one last month. But this is our normal with check register.
Yeah. They do this every year.
Almost every 6 months. it seems
Every 6
like.
months.
Yeah.
So the reason for this being on the agenda is just so you're aware of what's being requested of our district, so you'll see when they come through. And Lisa usually gets tasked, Tracy, moving on to 7.2, fiscal year 2023 school district library grant awarded of $850.
Yeah, so we wrote a grant for the state of Illinois, and we were able to split $850 between our two libraries, so that's always exciting. Whenever we luck into some money, we want to make sure that you know about it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Moving on to 7.3, an action item to adopt the e-learning plan that was discussed in the public hearing. We need to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
It's been moved by Dan, seconded by Dave to approve or adopt the e-learning plan. Roll call, or I guess, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to 7.4 is action item authorization of transfer of funds for bond series 2020, June 2023 payment of $30,997 from Fund 60 to Fund 30 for the interest bond payment.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Dave, seconded by Dan to approve the transfer of the funds for the bond series 2020. Roll call, please.
Shower,
Aye.
Cent,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Kuzma,
Aye.
Fulton,
Aye.
Dahlberg,
Aye.
Foot.
Aye.
It's a little explanation. So there's 10 fund categories in the state of Illinois, and for certain payments, they have to come out of certain funds. The money goes into one fund, but the payment for certain things have to come out of another one. So not very often, but every once in a while, we have to transfer funds from one fund category to another, and we can't just do that. The board has to approve that. So every once in a while, you'll see these fund transfers because of that. The bond payment ones are a little bit more common, but it wouldn't be something where if we wanted to just take some money out of transportation and put it in our building fund because, we've got a project going on, we can't just do that. We can't do it without you knowing about it and approving it. So that's why this is happening.
Moving on to 7.5 is action item for authorization of transfer of funds for bond series 2023, June 2023 payment, $36,650 from Fund 60 to Fund 30 for the interest bond payment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Dan and seconded by Dave to approve the transfer of funds for the bond series 2023. Roll call, please.
Cent,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Kuzma,
Aye.
Fulton,
Aye.
Dahlberg,
Aye.
Foot,
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Aye. If I could just make a comment right now. There's 3 or 4 of us that just, we know what we're doing and we go ahead. We haven't let the new people at least jump in.
It's really a race.
I mean, I keep, they've got
Baptism by fire.
They got people at home that won't know that they've been to the board meeting. So we get them to approve a motion or make a motion, so, we'll.
Duly noted, Don.
We'll count to 5.
Thanks. See how quick you guys are now. All right, so 7.6, action item, purchase from Scales Mound 2, 2017 International 71 passenger buses for $35,000 each. I'm assuming that's $35,000, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I think I brought it to the board earlier in the year. We have 4 buses that we are currently leasing and of our 10-bus fleet. Our plan earlier this school year was to probably just extend the lease on those 4 buses because during COVID, we didn't drive our buses very much. So really our buses that were leased really had low mileage on them. Well, partway through the school year, we received an email from Scales Mountain that they had a couple buses and a couple Yukons or Suburbans or something for sale. So said to Jeff, hey, why don't you go check these out and see if they might be a better deal than extending our lease. And lo and behold, they had 2 buses that had lower miles and were in, well, really good condition. So we said, yeah, we'd be interested in purchasing them. What do you want? And actually the purchase price came out to be lower than what we would have paid for extending the lease on those 2 buses. So we will turn in 2 of our buses at the end of the year that we're leasing instead of extending them, and make the purchase of these 2 buses should you approve it. And then the next item would be to extend the lease for the 2 buses that we have that have the lowest miles on them and are in the best shape. So that's 7.6 and 7.7, but now you have the backstory.
Entertain a motion.
So moved?
I'll second.
All right. So, moved by Christina, second by Esta, to approve the purchase of the Scales Mount, purchase from Scales Mount of 2 2017 International 71 passenger buses for $35,000 each. Roll call, please.
Nelson.
Aye.
Kuzma.
Aye.
Fulton.
Aye.
Dahlberg.
Aye.
Foot.
Aye.
Shower. Aye. Sen.
Aye. Just for a little context, prior to COVID and supply chain and all that, a brand new bus was somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000 to $80,000. Now they're well over $100,000. So, you know, the buses that we're getting have around 30,000 miles on them for $35,000. So this is cheaper than what we could buy a used bus from Midwest Transit, which is where we go for our buses. So, like I said, Jeff and Mike went and checked them out, and they felt really good about this. So I have to trust our guys.
Okay, moving on to 7.7, action item for lease extension of our buses 32 and 33, 4 years at $89,987.60.
Our motion.
It's been moved by Esta,
A second?
seconded by Christina, to approve the lease extension of buses 32 and 33. Roll call, please.
Dahlberg.
Aye.
Foot.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Sen.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Kuzma.
Aye.
Fulton.
Moving on to 7.8, action item for educational scholarship for high school students working at the elementary school.
Yeah, so we've talked about how we try and get our seniors in high school involved in things outside of school. And I think we have 4 or 5 students right now that are involved in some type of internship. We have a student that leaves school about noon and goes to work at Hanley Auto Body. We have a couple kids who under John Deere that are welding. We also have some students that go to our elementary school, and some of them want nothing to do with education at all. They probably just want to get out of this building and go to that one because the kids down there are little and cute and all that. But we do have some students that are interested in being educators, and so we set it up as an internship or an experience for them to get some practical experience prior to going to college and learning to become a teacher, which is great. And they did that the first semester. Well, they went back the second semester, and we thought, you know, it would be nice to be able to pay these kids, but we really can't. You know, they are doing more than just a service for us. Some of them are doing paraprofessional duties, and some of them are flat out teaching some of the kids in small groups or individually or what have you. So we thought it would be nice for the students that spend multiple semesters in our elementary school. The first semester we kind of take is, that's your experience, that's your resume builder, that's your, you know, this is where you kind of get your boots on the ground. If they do it multiple semesters though, we thought it would be nice if we could do something for those students. Lisa and I figured out the other day that if we were paying these kids the $14 an hour for the 3 hours or 3.5 hours a day, you know, they would have earned over $3,700 from us this semester. So we would like to, for the students that are going into education, we'd like to do a $500 scholarship for those students as a thank you, as a please God don't change your major, as you know, whatever we could do to incentivize them for, you know, the hours that they put in. So I'm asking the board to approve two scholarships for $500 for the 2 students that are going into education.
A motion?
I'll second.
I got it.
Nikki's on the board.
I got it.
So it's moved by Christina and seconded by Nikki to approve the educational scholarship for high school students working at the elementary school. Roll call, please.
Foot,
Aye.
Shower,
Aye.
Scent,
Aye.
Nelson, Kuzma,
Aye.
Colton, Dahlberg.
Aye.
Moving on to 7.9, action item to approve the Midwest Medical Contract for 2023-2024 school year.
So, in answer to Dave's question, Midwest Medical is also the athletic trainers for the co-op of East Dubuque and Southwestern, so this contract's for if we're not co-oping. So, no, this is our standard contract that we have with Midwest for our training services every year, including the co-op.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Been moved by Dave, seconded by Dan to approve the Midwest Medical Contract for 2023-2024. Roll call, please.
Colton, Dahlberg,
Aye.
Foot,
Aye.
Shower, Scent,
Aye.
Nelson, Kuzma.
Aye.
Moving on to 7.10, action item, Highland Community College dual credit courses agreement for 2023-2024 school year.
Currently, we don't have any students that are involved in any dual credit courses with Highland, but if we should want that, we have to enter into an agreement with them. So we actually have more students that find different online opportunities or summer opportunities and things like that than Highland. But they are our community college of our region, so if there should be opportunities, we need to be part of that agreement.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Don and seconded by Esta to approve the Highland Community College dual credit courses agreement for 2023-2024. Roll call, please.
Dahlberg,
Aye.
Foot,
Aye.
Shower, Scent,
Aye.
Nelson, Kuzma,
Aye.
Colton.
If I may, TJ, for that, how are students made aware of what's available through Highland?
Through the counselor's office, and if, so like Mr. Logan Bushmouth called the juniors this year and asked them, you know, what's their intention, what do they want to do in the future. A lot of kids were still unsure, but if they had a specific course of action that they wanted to take, we talked about internships, we talked about, you know, like the John Deere program that we have for the students that pertain to. And if there's kids that they know that they're college bound and there's an opportunity for them to get some credits out of the way, then that's when they would be talked to.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to 7.11, action item to approve.
7:11 and
Actually-
7:12 will cover after the executive session.
Okay. So those will be delayed until after executive session, which is our next item on the agenda. So entertain a motion to go into executive session. And if you move, if you could read what is there, please.
To move.
I second.
To enter executive session, the appointment, based upon the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, and I don't know who this is, but I hope they. Enough. Stop. Wow. The board will go into executive session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine if its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. 5 Illinois Consolidated Statutes 120/2C1.
Second.
It's been moved by Dunn, seconded by Dan to go into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.